The zombies broke into the house and the woman was the first to meet them. The two men, however, shrank back in fear, making no attempt to help. Roberta braced against the first zombie, while Hector rushed to the doorway, casually picking up a nearby speaker. The scene that unfolded left the men hiding in the corner trembling in fear. In fact, Hector wanted to vent his frustrations. He had been trying to turn over a new leaf, but the emergence of the Red Hand constantly reminded him of his past. After dealing with the zombies, Hector used a cabinet to barricade the door again. Then, gunshots rang out. The battle at Roberta's location also concluded, but the bullet struck the Red Hand woman. She bled out and just happened to die, mutating into a zombie. Seeing no more danger, the two men timidly emerged. They glanced at the bodies on the ground, silent, fearing that Roberta and Hector, in their rage, might turn on them. Outside, the Red Hand continued throwing Molotov cocktails and making loud noises, seemingly to attract zombies. Inside, Roberta and Hector had decided to have nothing more to do with these two scoundrels, but then, they sensed something was off. The noise outside had ceased. Could the Red Hand have retreated? It didn't make sense. They went to the door and looked outside, where a zombie strapped with explosives was approaching, aiming to destroy the gate in one fell swoop. Roberta looked behind her, thinking of a plan. She walked to the center of the room, picked up a child's toy from the ground, wound it up 10 times, and then threw it far away. The zombie immediately changed direction. The tactic worked, but before they could celebrate, something fell from the sky at the door. It was the toy monkey. Roberta cursed, sensing trouble. Sure enough, when the smoke cleared, another bomb-strapped zombie was nearing, and the fuse had burned out. With the explosion, the gate was still breached, and Roberta lay motionless on the ground. She had faced the blast head-on, and it was uncertain if she was alive or dead. Hector called out to Roberta several times with no response, his voice trembling.
Wake up, Lieutenant. Wake up. Get up, Lieutenant.
He couldn't bear the thought of Roberta being dead. His path to redemption couldn't proceed without Roberta, the team leader.
I need you. You hear me? Now get up! Get up!
Thankfully, Roberta eventually opened her eyes, dazed by the blast. Her head felt like mush. In a haze, she saw zombies entering but couldn't make a sound to warn. A zombie pounced on Hector. The two men continued to run away, still showing no intention of helping. Fortunately, Hector reacted in time and wasn't bitten by the zombies. The zombies pressed down on him, leaving him powerless to fight back. Taking a risk, Hector used his left arm to hold off the zombie's neck while his right hand quickly reached for a pistol on the ground. Having retrieved the gun, Hector finally stood up, forcefully slamming the zombie against the wall with a barbaric charge. Roberta regained some strength and staggeringly raised her pistol to help. As another zombie approached Hector, however, her dizziness hadn't faded, making it impossible for her to aim properly. Hector, resilient as ever, managed to fend off two zombies without getting bitten. When the third zombie arrived, fortunately, Roberta finally hit her target and continued shooting to assist. Finally, Hector was free to easily take down the last zombie. They looked at each other, realizing they had narrowly escaped death this time. The two men slowly emerged, and Ryan suddenly exclaimed in shock upon seeing the tattoo on Hector's arm.
You are a scorpion. You did this.
You got it wrong, man.
Tell your men to back off.
They're not my men.
Hector explained that he had no connection to the Red Hand, but the two didn't believe him and didn't lower their guns. Hector no longer tried to explain. His past actions were inexcusable, but it wasn't up to these thugs to end him. Yet Hector still hadn't killed anyone, trying to persuade Ryan to stand down, but Ryan attempted a sneak attack. Hector was stunned. It was an accident, not his intention. Ryan clutched his neck in agony.
Help us! Help us!
The injury was nearly fatal, and after a few struggles, Ryan stopped breathing. Within less than 10 seconds, Ryan turned into a zombie. and Hector shot him dead. The remaining man turns to Hector with a look of vengeance in his eyes. Hector ultimately killed the man, but the only consolation he had was that these two were no saints either. Meanwhile, Sunday found pliers to extract Addie's inflamed tooth, but Addie, barely conscious, instinctively resisted. With no other option, Sunday came up behind Addie, choked her into unconsciousness, and then proceeded without obstruction. "10 minutes later, the tooth was successfully removed. When Addie awoke, the excruciating pain was gone, replaced by a sense of relief. Toothache is truly one of the most painful experiences in the world. The battle on Roberta's end had ended, and they stepped out to find the Red Hand had retreated, presumably thinking they wouldn't survive. After this ordeal, Hector felt despair, believing that wherever he was, danger followed, and those close to him met bad ends. He contemplated leaving Squad X to not endanger them. Roberta disagreed. Her reasoning straightforward. Squad X didn't need lovers or saints. What they needed was combat power. A killer. Everyone's hard effort, put nicely, was to save the world. Bluntly put, it was to survive another day in it. Therefore, there was no need for Hector to deliberately change himself. He only needed to use his true nature to give everyone another chance. After hearing this, Hector nodded, touched by the feeling of being accepted and growing with the team, something he hadn't experienced in many years. Having reached a consensus and about to go look for Addie, they saw her and the others approaching, supported by each other, likely guided by the sound of the recent explosion. After exchanging a few words, they prepared to resume their mission, to find Murphy, stop him, and then develop a vaccine to save the world.
Hector, you coming?
A base with zombies as guardrails has suddenly appeared in the city. Its creator was Murphy, who had not been seen for a long time, now dressed in a sharp suit, exuding an aura of authority. On Murphy's left was Cassidy's father, Will, now serving as Murphy's chief of staff. It's undeniable that Will is highly capable, having made Murphy's hybrid nation stand out in just a few days. Not only did he recruit more people, but he also organized them to establish a zombie protective wall. From this point, Murphy was no longer the pawn of others but a deity in the eyes of the common people, as a bite from him meant no longer fearing zombies. While they were talking,
Murphy!
No. Let him come.
Mr. Murphy, come, please. We need your help.
Murphy comes along and sees that Wesson's companion is dying and may turn into a zombie before long. So Wesson begs Murphy to bite the woman. Murphy, not one to be swayed by excessive compassion, needed people who could be useful. He immediately refused, citing his own physical weakness as the reason.
All of you, I'm sorry, but a cure is coming. The apocalypse is my witness. We are developing a cure. Trust me.
Immediately after that, Murphy stood up again and said to the refugees, indeed, Murphy was not lying. He had planned for Dr. Murch to produce 10,000 hybrid vaccines, and his substantial blood donation for the project had left him exceedingly fatigued, feeling as though his body had been emptied. At this point 10K comes in and reports that the refugees outside won't take no for an answer and now want to be vaccinated. Dr. Murch stated that the production of 10,000 hybrid vaccines would take another 48 hours, and even then, clinical trials would be needed for human use, but Murphy was not concerned with such details. In a world already a cauldron of death, he wanted the vaccine as soon as possible. Murch didn't argue back, just quietly pulled out a potion from his pocket. When 10K woke up, the first thing he saw was Dr. Murch's concerned eyes. He was puzzled, wondering what had happened. Murch explained that you were controlled by Murphy, with the bite mark right on your neck. I injected you with the most basic vaccine, which can keep you conscious for a short period, she said. As he spoke, Murch took out a cloth bag, indicating that it contained the remaining basic vaccines. We must inject one every once in a while, or else we'll gradually fall under Murphy's control again. Then Murch asked 10K to find a car. She planned to destroy the 10,000 hybrid vaccines and then leave this godforsaken place together. 10K tried to act normal and hurried downstairs to look for a car, but at that moment, the refugees charged in. Because the woman was on the brink of death, panic set in among them. Thus, they came to beg Murphy once again to bite them.
I'm sorry.
I've seen what your bites can do. Look, have mercy on us, please.
And then we all die.
And her. Look, just her, just by her. Like everybody else can wait, please, just take her.
The woman didn't last long and fell to the ground, lifeless, turning into a zombie in just 3 seconds. The 10K was about to shoot when Murphy stopped him. Reaching out with his hand, in his mind he instantly calmed the zombies down.
She can be part of the moat guard if you like.
Murphy couldn't demean himself to bite each person, so he was desperately in need of the hybrid vaccine. That was just a minor incident. 10K gathered some simple living supplies and continued on his way. As he walked out of the door, no one paid him any mind. After all, those bitten by Murphy would completely obey. Sneaking around, 10K fell behind because he had been injected with the original vaccine, temporarily negating Murphy's control. However, he also lost his immunity to zombies. So, 10K had to blend in with others to avoid being noticed. The rest of the plan went smoothly. 10K found a pickup truck by the fence and loaded everything into it. After doing all this, he looked up at the lab, wondering why Dr. Murch hadn't arrived. Could something have gone wrong? Thinking it over, 10K decided to go back and check. After all, without Murch's original vaccine, he would eventually fall under Murphy's control again. When Dr. Murch turned around, there was a new bite mark on her other cheek. 10K instantly understood that Murphy must have discovered their plan.
All right, you looking for these? But you do look like you could use a little Murphy booster to keep you in line. Don't worry, I don't have to bite you again. You can be the first to try the new blend vaccine.
10K shoved Murphy away and grabbed the original vaccine from the table. This was crucial for ensuring he could remain conscious in the future. Seeing no way out, 10K smashed through a window and jumped down, landing in the pickup truck bed. The fall made his insides feel all jumbled up, but he wasn't injured. Just as 10K was about to drive away, he realized what was already in the driver's seat.
Catch him! He's got my medicine! After him! Everybody after him!
10K sprinted away from the museum's vicinity, but a few people were always trailing behind him. At one point, 10K was tackled to the ground, but he managed to escape with his agile skills. In the end, only Will was still chasing him. It's not that Will doesn't want to shoot, but he knows that 10K is someone Murphy cares about. 10K ran all the way to the dam. Just as he reached the middle, several zombies appeared in front of him. It was too late to turn back. Will and his men had cut off his retreat. 10K had no weapons to kill the zombies. After a brief moment of thought, he made a decision. He would rather die than be controlled by Murphy again. The current was strong, and the moment 10K fell in, he disappeared. Inside the base, Murphy was reading a book when he suddenly felt a wave of resistant thought in his mind, as if it were conveying a message. This rebellious thought came from Dr. Murch, who had secretly injected herself with the original vaccine again.
March! March!
Murch didn't answer but continued to walk towards the door. She knew she couldn't escape but didn't want to become a tool for Murphy to rule the world. So, Murch also made a decision.